Did you know that after age 65, some medications can do more harm than good? Even the ones you've been taking for years can start to affect your body differently. In this video, I'll share which medications are worth reviewing, why it matters, and what simple steps you can take right now to protect your health. Straightforward and with care, as if I were speaking to someone I love. Let's start with something I see all the time in my practice. Sleeping pills and anxiety medications that are supposed to help, but can slowly start doing more harm than good, especially after 65. I'm talking about drugs like diazepam, lorazepam, clonazepam, medications that fall under the category of benzodiazepines. They're often prescribed for sleep or anxiety, and for a while they seem to work. But the older we get, the more sensitive our bodies become. These medications stay in the system longer, affect our balance, slow down thinking, and increase the risk of confusion or even falls. Most people don't realize that one of the biggest causes of emergency room visits in older adults is actually medication-related dizziness and falls. And benzodiazepines are often behind that. I had a patient named Gary, 72 years old, from Indianapolis. He started taking a low dose of lorazepam about 6 years ago after his wife passed away. At first, it helped him fall asleep faster, and he felt calmer in the evenings. But over time, he began to notice something. His memory wasn't as sharp, and he felt groggy most mornings. One day, he slipped in the kitchen and hit his hip. Thankfully, it wasn't broken, but it scared him. Then, just 3 weeks later, it happened again, this time on the front steps. That's when his daughter called me and said, "Something's not right. Can we take a look at his meds?" We did a full review. The lorazepam was still being renewed automatically, even though he hadn't seen the prescribing doctor in over a year. We worked out a taper plan very slow over several weeks and combined it with small changes: warm lighting in the evening, no screens after 8 p.m., and a 5-minute breathing routine before bed. Gary didn't believe it would help at first. But within a month he told me, "I'm sleeping better than I did with the pills, and I actually feel awake in the morning." What often helps is starting with a conversation. If you're taking something for sleep or anxiety especially, if it's a pill you've had for years, ask your doctor or pharmacist to review it. Don't stop it suddenly. That can be dangerous. But ask, is this still the safest choice for me at my age? There may be newer, safer options or non-drug tools that work just as well without the side effects. Sleep isn't something we fix with one pill. It's a system, like a garden, that needs daily care, the right conditions, and patience. Your brain deserves rest, but also clarity. You are not fragile. You are adapting. And even small changes in your evening routine can bring big peace, one quiet night at a time. Let's talk about something that seems harmless, but often causes trouble after age 65. Older antihistamines, especially ones like diphenhydramine or chlorpheniramine. You might recognize those names from allergy meds or sleep aids that don't even require a prescription. A lot of people still keep them in their medicine cabinet and take them without much thought because they've been around for decades and seem to work fast. But here's what I often explain to patients. Just because a medicine is old doesn't mean it's safe for everyone, especially as we get older. These first-generation antihistamines can cross the blood-brain barrier and have a strong sedating effect, which might be fine for a younger person who wants to sleep through a cold. But in older adults, they can cause serious side effects: confusion, slowed reaction time, balance problems, even memory loss over time. One of my clients, Martha, was 78 when her grandson brought her in to see me. He was worried because she seemed more forgetful and less steady on her feet than just a few months earlier. She hadn't had any major health events, and her blood work looked normal. When I asked her about medications, she pulled out a bottle of over-the-counter allergy pills, the kind that included diphenhydramine, and said, "Oh, I take these almost every night. Helps me sleep and keeps the postnasal drip away." She'd been using them regularly for years, never really thinking twice. We talked about what was happening in her body and brain and how those pills could be the culprit. With her grandson's help, we gradually stopped them and switched to a newer, non-sedating antihistamine during allergy season. She also started a gentle bedtime routine with music and chamomile tea. A few weeks later, she said, "I feel like I woke up out of fog, and I'm remembering names again. What often helps is reading the label, even on something that looks familiar. Look for ingredients like diphenhydramine or chlorpheniramine, and if you see them, talk to your doctor or pharmacist about safer alternatives." There are second-generation antihistamines that don't cross into the brain as easily and are far less likely to cause drowsiness or confusion. Just because something is old and over-the-counter doesn't make it harmless. Your body changes with age, and your medicine should change with it. Sometimes protecting your memory and balance doesn't take anything complicated. Just turning the bottle around and asking, "Is this still the best choice for me?" Here's something I bring up often, especially when someone tells me they've been having joint pain or backaches for years. Long-term use of common painkillers like ibuprofen or naproxen can sometimes cause more problems than they solve, especially after the age of 65. These medications belong to a group called NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and they're widely available without a prescription, so it's easy to think of them as harmless. But the truth is, in older adults, NSAIDs can raise blood pressure, irritate the stomach lining, and put a lot of stress on the kidneys. When taken occasionally, they can be helpful, but when they're used daily or even a few times a week, they can quietly cause harm that builds up over time. I had a patient named Bob, 70 years old, from Columbus. He'd been dealing with arthritis in his knees for nearly a decade, and he told me, "I just take a couple of ibuprofens every morning. Been doing it for years." He didn't think much of it until he started having stomach cramps and occasional dizziness. At first, he thought it was just aging, but when we looked at his blood pressure and ran some kidney function tests, it was clear his body was under stress. We reviewed his routine together and talked about what was realistic. Stopping the ibuprofen cold turkey wasn't the answer, but we introduced a gradual change. He switched to a topical anti-inflammatory gel for his knees, started doing a simple stretching routine in the morning, and began using heat wraps on colder days. A few weeks later, he said, "I thought I'd be in more pain, but actually I feel more stable, and I'm not getting that stomach pain anymore." One of the easiest things you can do is check how often you're using these medications and talk to your doctor or pharmacist if it's more than occasionally. There are safer options, especially for localized pain, like topical gels, physical therapy, or even alternating cold and heat. You don't have to stop on your own, but having a conversation could help prevent long-term damage. Pain relief doesn't always mean swallowing a pill. Sometimes it means finding gentler ways to care for your body, ones that don't add hidden risk. Your body still deserves comfort, but it also deserves protection, and it's never too late to make that shift, one step at a time. And here's something I always encourage people to look at, especially if you're taking 5 or more medications each day, your medication list. Over time, many older adults end up taking a pile of pills, often prescribed by different specialists over the years, and it's easy to lose track of what each one is for, whether they're still needed or if they might be interacting with each other in ways that cause more harm than good. This situation is so common, we even have a name for it in medicine: polypharmacy. The older we get, the more sensitive our bodies become to side effects, and taking multiple medications increases the risk of dizziness, confusion, digestive issues, and even falls. Especially when some drugs were prescribed years ago for problems that are no longer relevant. One of my patients, Walter, was 79 when his daughter brought him in, concerned about his memory and balance. She told me he'd been more forgetful lately and she'd found several half-used bottles of pills in the kitchen. When we reviewed his medications, it turned out he was taking 12 different prescriptions, some from his cardiologist, others from a previous hospital visit, a few from an old injury, and even one he'd started on his own after seeing an ad on TV. Walter couldn't clearly remember which pill was for what, so we did what we call a medication review, a full audit of everything he was taking. With his primary doctor and pharmacist, we carefully removed medications that were no longer necessary or were overlapping in effect. After a few weeks, something shifted. Walter's digestion improved, his thinking felt sharper, and he stopped needing a nap by 10 a.m. He smiled at me and said, "It's like I've been carrying extra weight I didn't even know I had." What often helps is simply making a list. Gather all your medications, including over-the-counter pills and supplements, and bring them to your next appointment. Ask your doctor or pharmacist, "Do I really need all of these?" You don't need to stop anything suddenly, but it's important to ask and to let your care team help simplify things when possible. Your health isn't a math problem where more equals better. Sometimes real clarity in your thinking, your sleep, your balance starts when the noise quiets down, and that includes what's on your pill tray. You deserve a routine that supports your body, not overwhelms it. If any part of this spoke to you, share it in the comments. Your experience might help someone else be more mindful about their health. Subscribe if you'd like more helpful and thoughtful videos like this. And remember, you are not alone. You matter. And even in the small things, you have the power to choose what protects you. Life keeps reaching out. All you have to do is reach back.